Welcome to the Ramble on. Let's go ahead and talk about Captain Marvel.
And let's talk about it. Yes.
And before we do, let's of course note, as usual, there will be heavy spoilers. If you are interested in this movie and really don't want anything spoiled, look away for now. This is intended to be something where you either go into this knowing what to expect or looking for discussion on some of the deeper themes and some of the stuff that comes up in the movie.
So let's talk about the story, because I feel like that's the most simplistic thing we can approach and easily eliminate. I think, like you said, boilerplate safe. It's truly is.
It's a very standard Marvel story.
Yeah.
And it's one where, again, you're not here for the twists. You know it, I know it. We're not here to have some deep conversation about the nature of power and the way that we use it. We're not here to talk about a god's perspective on man. We're here to watch Brie Larson be a kick-ass feminist hero and show the bad guys who's boss.
Hell yeah.
And of course, we have a very expected twist of, wait a minute, the guys we thought were the bad guys weren't the bad guys. And the guys we thought were good guys were the bad guys. Oh my god.
Now,
You mean the people that have the blue sniper lady who has no pulse is a bad guy? So the big twist in this movie, if you can call it a twist, really, is the Skrull are the minority who have to go into hiding, and the Kree, who are the police force who constantly hunt down this race, are, surprise, surprise, actually kind of a Nazi regime type thing.
yeah. And are affiliated with other antagonistic characters.
Thanos, they're straight up the taskmasters of Thanos.
Yeah, exactly. Taskmasters of Thanos. Because Ronan.
Thanos.
Because Ronan from the original Guardians of the Galaxy does rear his ugly blue head again.
If he shows up.
Yeah, he shows up as kind of like the commanding officer of this police force that we mentioned earlier.
And yeah, there's a lot of hints to it too. Like the Kree look very sinister, even in the opening. It's pretty clear that Brie Larson is the one that's standing out in all of this. It's pretty obvious.
So with that boilerplate plot out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the characters. So, as we said in the American recut, that when you introduce a Superman-esque hero or protagonist in this movie, everyone's just along for the ride. Any background or side character that's introduced is just there for emotional support.
Yeah. There's also the issue of the fact that we keep calling her Brie Larson, because I don't know her actual name.
Nor I.
She's going to have a superhero name, because Captain Marvel is not her. Captain Marvel is the name of the Air Force captain, whose name is Marvel. Her name is Brie...
Well, Carol something, yeah.
Yeah, the point is, when I look at her, all I can say is, oh, that's Brie Larson.
Yeah, again.
Her character didn't... Well, maybe they didn't say her name enough, but her character didn't stick with me as a character, aside from being the one with the plasma.
And this is kind of the fault of the writers, because, when they introduce this character to us, she has amnesia.
That is the implication, yes.
Yeah,
Well, see, she's an amnesia case, and she has a classic Clark Kent situation where she's trying to discover her true self and unlock her full hidden potential, which she does. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Nick Fury, lovable character, Samuel L. Jackson. He has his typical trademark quirks, as you expect from almost every other movie he's in.
See, when I looked at Nick Fury in other movies, I didn't think he's probably a cat lover.
That surprised me.
Or that he had a personality at all beyond just, he has no time for shit, he's just here to get the job done. So, yeah, a lot of stuff about his character, I feel like while it was fun in the movie and kind of in like the cutesy, look at the tough guy be cute way, it was also kind of disappointing because this is very clearly a 180 on his character and not who he ever is in any other film after that.
It is a weird 180, but I think it's just their attempt to kind of like humanize him, because it is like you said, when they introduce him to us in the other Marvel films, he comes off as this head honcho that's cool, calculating, and totally professional.
And for what it's worth, early on in the film, when they're at the airbase, well, the secret airbase or whatever,
Oh, yeah.
he actually has some fantastic moments in that. He does a lot of very practical things to avoid being detected. He does some neat tricks with like tape. He has some times where he really genuinely comes across as being a unique, highly useful character.
He does.
And that's wonderful. I was hoping that this would continue the movie, but he kind of gets relegated to the back seat after basically that scene.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've all seen it before with other movies.
He's just there for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, we're introduced to these characters for like 10, 20 minutes, and we see them in action, and then they are just sidelined.
Well, this time he was just there because he's in the other Marvel movies, so he needs to be there to see this stuff. And that's about it.
For continuity
but
purposes.
It's a Superman issue. What's he going to do to help her? There's nothing he can't do.
Right. So that's Captain Marvel, Nick
Likewise,
Fury.
there is Brie Larson's girlfriend. I think her name is Mabel.
Or Comrade, because I mean...
Madeline is her name.
Madeline.
She exists to get Brie Larson to realize that, some shit is fucky. She has a daughter.
She does.
The Skrull have names and personalities, but they're mostly just victims.
Yeah, I lament. I didn't take the names of the Skrull.
Brie Larson has a father character that exists in her flashbacks, just to kind of prove as the toxic masculinity or the patriarchy keeping her down.
That's a shame that was never touched up on more. That could have been...
I mean, come on. He was so two-dimensional. He was just there to be a man who's a jerk.
He was, but I feel like they could have maybe expanded upon that a little more.
Yeah. The only way they expanded upon it was to have him serve as direct toxic masculinity or direct patriarchy, and then move on to institutionalized patriarchy in the form of the Kree.
I mean, that's fair.
Because, I mean, everything involving her with the intelligence, or whatever it's called, the AI thing, are all ways to kind of reinforce that you have no power. You have to be under our thumb, or else you can't control your womanly impulses. It's very on-the-nose type feminism.
It is.
It's the kind of straw man that's very easy to argue against.
It is. And this, speaking of the super intelligence, or whatever the hell that supercomputer was called, we are, again, treated to a plethora of characters, but aren't quite acquainted enough as we probably should be to get a decent story, but...
Now, this movie also is like really neck deep in nostalgia stuff. Like, it's a lot of nostalgia baits. It's too much. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy had the occasional cute reference to like the 80s, 70s or so.
This one came at us with the nostalgia like a truck.
Every few minutes it's a new... Remember that thing from the 90s? Remember Pogs? Remember lunchboxes? Remember the Fonz? Do you remember these songs? We're going to keep playing them.
Right. No, every scene or every
much.
other scene, they just rammed it down our throats. Blockbuster, Radio Shack, payphones.
It's way too much.
Oh, it is. We get it. You thought the 90s was awesome.
I got sick to death of it very quickly. Unlike with Guardians of the Galaxy, where it has certain charm to it,
yes.
This one they went too hard and the references didn't lead anywhere. Because the big difference, I think, is in Guardians of the Galaxy, every reference was usually musical through the Walkman that Star-Lord had.
Right.
Where every time that he would be challenged on it or talked to about it, he would have to explain, this is actually a very important song to me. This was actually made by my mother for me. That this is something that ties me back to my humanity. In this movie, a lot of the 90s references are there because she's on Earth and it's the 90s. We gotta remind you, it's the 90s.
Right.
Have you seen this Cars from the 90s? This song that's playing on the radio right now with Nick Fury when he was younger in the 90s, it's from the 90s.
Fucking 90s. No.
Have you seen this Fonz lunchbox yet?
Oh, God. Or that goddamn pinball machine with Space Invaders on it.
Space Invaders, that's the 90s.
God damn.
Remember pinball? Remember? It's a lot of member bears.
We all remember. Jesus. No, like you said, Guardians of the Galaxy had a casual, if not playful, conversation about it.
Speaking of Guardians, I feel like I should draw the comparisons between Guardians of the Galaxy and this because
Please.
this movie tries very hard to be Guardians of the Galaxy and doesn't succeed.
Oh, totally.
In part because of the Superman problem, in part because I want to say this is kind of the corporate attempt at making a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, which had heart to it.
Yeah.
Which, this is the attempt to kind of take a lot of the stuff that was unique to Guardians of the Galaxy and codify it, make a template for it, so they can just follow a roadmap and just do this every time to make audiences love it. But the thing is, when you do that, audiences get sick of it very quickly, because if every single movie is Guardians of the Galaxy, we don't give a shit about that movie anymore. We already have Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right. We want something new. We want some new plot, some new. I don't know. Like I said, it just becomes formulaic. It just gets beaten down, tired out.
All right, now speaking as white men in our late 20s,
oh God,
let's talk about feminism and the ways that it gets in the plot.
I have no problem with feminism. I got nothing against it.
I believe that the form of feminism this movie employs and tries to discuss is one that would be fitting for a movie released in the 90s or possibly the late 80s, when you could have these very simplistic feminism good, men bad type of arguments. But I think that you do need to have a more sophisticated and nuanced discussion about feminism if you're going to bring it up in the modern age.
Which is fair, but do you think that was on purpose at all, or I don't know.
I'm sorry.
That was a silly question.
Well, what do you call the 3 times she has flashback scenes where it's all about, like, you're not good enough because you're a woman. You can't be in the military. You're a girl. You can't drive go-karts. Only boys get to drive go-karts. Yeah, it's a very heavy-handed feminist message. And I think that's heavy-handed in not the way it should be. It could be done in a way where we can discuss things that are not only just direct patriarchy, where it is mansplaining and talking down to women, but also in more subtle ways. Because this movie does feature both direct patriarchy in the sense of, in the form of her father who constantly talks down to her in flashbacks, and the institutionalized patriarchy in the AI, as I mentioned before.
Right. No, like you said, it should be a little more nuanced, but again, I can't help but wonder, because it was so blatant, was that directed at younger audiences?
So no, older. It's meant to be a thing for the sweaty comic book fans who can't accept a woman existing in the same theater as them.
Yeah, I hope they got the message then.
No, they're probably upset about it because men aren't that bad.
Oh no, you're probably going to get all kinds of incel forum chats.
Well, whatever. Look, I'm not trying to be an alliance centrist. I swear I think that feminism is a perfectly good movement at many times. I think in this particular case, this was Hollywood feminism, and that is rarely ever useful for anyone.
Right. No, like you were saying earlier, this is clearly a corporate attempt.
However, one thing I would like to applaud in this movie, as far as themes go, is this approach on lesbian relationships. Because it's a very tactfully approached thing where we see clear evidence of it, and we see pictures, flashbacks, the emotional connection that Brie Larson's character has with her girlfriend. I think it's implied, and then and as well as the daughter that they raised together. And then we also have it so that they don't have to ever put a label on what they had because it's appropriate to the time period for the 90s where they wouldn't want to come out with that. They just have a very good relationship and they're very close friends. But I would actually applaud the approach they had to feminism in this movie. It was a very nice change of pace and I think a very strong approach for her.
That's true. It's not something you normally see, and while it was heavily implied, it was clearly apparent that, they had that kind of relationship.
It was implied, but it wasn't used to push a heavy-handed message.
It wasn't confirmed. It wasn't used to, no. It was very, not even casual, but it was there.
It had tact to it. It was tactful. It was a good choice.
Yeah.
It wasn't the kind of lesbian feminism where it has to beat you on the head that, hey, they're in love, they're in a romance, aren't we brave for saying this? It was done in a way where it's just part of her character and part of the way that she grew up as a person, which I respect.
Which kind of brings us back to a topic we kind of touched up on in the American recut. Backstory continuity. Now, I have no idea of Captain Marvel's background, but was she ever depicted as LGBTQ?
I have no idea, and I'm not worried about it. It doesn't bother me either way.
It doesn't bother me either.
I think that as far as backstory stuff goes, like the cute little details, oh, the cat ate the Tesseract. Oh, they got it from Captain Marvel's ship. Oh, they got it. That's how he lost his eye. Like, who cares? Who fucking cares? All I need to know what the Tesseract is. It's a blue glowy thing that's important for some reason. Fine.
Right. And some big blue angry guy needs it for whatever weird nefarious reason. Yeah.
Do you mean a big purple guy needs it to put into a special glove?
Purple. That's right. He's purple, not blue.
But yeah, it's a plot device. I don't need a backstory on the Tesseract of all things.
The Tesseract is a uniting arc in this Marvel Disney universe, but I mean, yeah, you don't need to see the other movies to kind of get its importance, because I mean,
I'm not going to go as far as to say that like, ugh, I can't believe they brought other movies into this film, but I believe that it wasn't necessary either. Like,
no,
the Tesseract didn't do anything in this movie. Like, who cared about the Tesseract? It was just a plot device to keep the Kree away from or something.
And if not, a nice homage for the other Marvel movies that took place before Captain Marvel, or, well, before Captain Marvel movie was made.
There were so many of those, though.
So many.
Like, I'm pretty sure that the lady that, the pilot lady was also there in the first Avengers as one of the pilots in that room. I'm sure if you were big enough, you're going to be like, oh, look, there she is, she's piloting the ship, she's totally one of the pilots, oh my god.
Right, one of those silly little details that you'll never notice unless you go back and watch the other movies, because, goddamn, I watched some of the other movies, but I can't remember all the details from them that long ago.
Alright, well, speaking of corporate influence then, I think we should talk about the ways that the Disney merger has really watered down Marvel movies, and whether or not it's actually watered them down. Because I feel like this is kind of a very, like, this one that's actually hurt by its connection with Disney, because it plays it so safe. Anytime it has a theme to be said, it beats it over the head so hard that it makes me sick of it.
It's a pro and con thing.
It's definitely the corporate attempt to kind of capture lightning in a bottle that Guardians of the Galaxy did well, which I don't think ever works, especially if you're coming from a corporate perspective. There's just something heartless about that audiences can detect. Right.
It's very boilerplate safe, the plots, but the effects can be incredibly tremendous. So it has its pros and cons, and Disney has shown, as is with this film, to be a little ambitious with certain themes. In this case, LGBTQ.
I say feminism, not LGBTQ.
And feminism. Well, I mean... But, I mean, again...
If you choose a lesbian couple, but it doesn't make a statement on it one way or the other, which is fine.
No. But, again, that is pretty progressive. It's something we don't normally see in other movies.
Well,
but...
We have seen homosexual relationships before in films, but usually they get paraded around as the character who's homosexual. He's defined as being a homosexual because he is sleeping with this other man, or he is flirting with everybody on the ship because he is a man who sleeps with other men, or a woman who sleeps with other women. In this case, this is two women who have a relationship but don't really talk about it and don't need to talk about it. It's a pretty progressive way to approach things real talk.
Right. But like I was saying, there's pros and cons to it. Pro, you have a lot of money backing to it, which I would hope that money would be properly allocated to all kinds of nice things to embellish the movie. But
now, what you seem to be saying here is it's okay that Disney was involved because the fight scenes were the coolerest.
It definitely draws in a crowd, and it's definitely more appealing, but no, it's like
right.
You said, you do see a studio interference, and it is apparent where it is.
Well, that's what I always fear, is that a lot of the stuff you talk about, that we talk about, things like they're too heavy-handed with their themes, they're trying too hard to make a very complex thing very simple and small. You're going to get made with a lot of, but they said feminism was good. I just liked it because Captain Marvel beat up the bad guys. Did you see the way that she flew through those nukes? That was cool. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, this is so boring. Yeah, she's basically a god. These fight scenes are so pointless. Please just stop doing them and get back to talking.
In all fairness, the fight scenes are kind of pivotal to any superhero action hero movie.
Are they, though? Like there are movies where the fight scenes tie in with different themes or different plot elements, where you can tie in and fight organically with the plot. This is one of those movies where I feel like the fight scenes happen because, well, we needed a fight scene here. The script notes said there has to be a fight scene here, and we can't go away from what Save the Cat says, or we won't make a good movie.
You can.
Because, I mean, come on. How pointless are the fight scenes? How pointless are they?
A lot of them are pretty dragged on, but
There is no fight scene that's important in this movie.
but
They don't even tie in with plot elements by and large. Brie Larson does buy some time with a fight scene, and she does like blow up some nukes. But like,
Sure.
there's a whole section where like the bad guys like warp in, throw nukes. She blows them up. They say, "Well, get you next time, Brie Larson," and then they teleport out.
essentially that is what happened. And yes, you could do that.
I'm sorry. I misspoke there. I should say, "We'll get you next time, Brie Larson, in Marvel's Avengers, the first one," and then back out.
No, that
Be
really
sure to stay
distracted
tuned
me,
for
dude.
Be sure to stay tuned for the future Marvel movies in which we will exact our revenge upon you.
God, they really do hammer out that continuity. No, you can get away with that with not as colorful graphics, I suppose. Like, I mean, take the TV series on Netflix, Flash. The DC Universe's The Flash. That was a pretty good TV show, I thought. Mainly because it focused more on Barry Allen's life, his development as a character, and his...
It's a television show. They always have much more room to explore emotional questions. And with these comic book movies in general, I find myself repeatedly saying, look, I'm okay with having action. You can have action in these movies, but it needs to tie in with the plot. It can't be a thing where the plot gets interrupted by the action, and then we go back to the plot. It needs to be a thing where the action happens organically with the plot. And to an extent, this movie was better than most Marvel movies about that, but it was still pretty disconnected as far as that goes.
It was. And this is the con with the Disney of Marvel merger, because there's a lot more studio interference, I feel like, but I don't know. I mean...
I feel like part of the issue I have with these kinds of movies, and this is definitely subjective and not like, oh, it's a bad movie because I said so, but it's just kind of following the flow chart thing where you say, okay, now we have to have the heel turn moment, now we have to have the fun and games, now we have to have the emotional moment, now we need to have a little bit of a downer from all the action we just did, now we need to have action again in order to raise the stakes. We didn't have stakes. Uh-oh.
No,
and
right.
That's something I think was missing from this movie. If we want to talk basics, there's no stakes.
No.
Like, from the very beginning to the very end, we don't have any stakes for Brie Larson's character. She doesn't have anything to lose.
She does not have any flaws at all. That is very true.
Well, no. She has flaws, I would argue. She has a lot of self-worth issues that she works through in the movie. But she has nothing to lose in this movie. She has no stakes. She has no real stake in anything that's happening around her.
But,
she has some personal questions and memories, but
yeah,
they're not
the amnesia
really
thing.
stakes. They're not what I would look for as far as like high stakes would go. Alright, so if you're looking for the major talking points for these kinds of movies, the plot's pretty safe. Most of the side characters suffer from Superman syndrome, where one character dominates the plot. The themes of feminism and the themes of lesbianism are a little bit too heavy-handed, but the theme of... Did I say lesbianism or feminism?
You said lesbianism.
Okay, well, as far as the lesbian relationship goes, it's actually pretty well handled. The feminism stuff is a little bit too heavy-handed and simplistic. The 90s references are way too many. You get sick to death of them. It's not like the 70s phase where it's cute. It's the 90s where it stops being cute. And I'd say that otherwise it's a pretty standard Marvel movie.
It's
fine.
Yeah, pretty standard. Protagonist is introduced. Villain with a doomsday device is introduced. Hero triumphs.
Well, okay. I think the doomsday device here is just a shitload of nukes.
Yeah, essentially. And, yeah, again, hero triumphs, saves the day, and, I guess in this case, silent applause, which kind of a common occurrence in some Marvel movies, the silent hero kind of thing, but...
There's also a cat.
Oh yeah, the cat. Goose.
It's your typical, it's more dangerous than I expected kind of character. Yeah.
Would you see this in the theaters?
I did see it in theaters.
Well, I mean, would you recommend other moviegoers to go see this in theaters, or would you recommend to wait and see if this comes out on, like, I don't know, Netflix, Hulu, whatever?
I'd say if you're really invested in Marvel, this is one of the better Marvel movies they've released lately. I'd say it is better than things like Black Panther or Captain America or even Civil War. I'd say it's better than those movies. Yeah, go see it in the theaters. Why not?
And that actually, if you're a devout Marvel fan or a huge fan of this continuity, then I would recommend seeing this movie.
They're going to see it anyways if they're huge Marvel fans.
Yeah, oh yeah. But
it could be literal dog shit for an hour and a half, and they'd still say, "Didn't you like the part where it moved a little bit?"
This is fair. Yeah, they're gonna see it in theaters anyways. But yeah, it's worth seeing in theaters. Not a total waste of $10, but all the same, meh.
It's not as meh as some of the other films we reviewed. I'd say it's good. Meh, it's not bad.
Better than How to Train Your Dragon 3, in my honest opinion.
Absolutely.
There's other movies out there that are just as mediocre, if not even more.
It at least has some of a heart to it. It's trying.
It is.
It's all competently done. If you're like, well, I heard it has the females in it. I don't know if I like that. It's not going to get in the way of your stupid action.
Not even remotely. No. It doesn't have... It's pretty safe, pretty formulaic. Yeah.
I think if there's one thing I do want to tack on before we stop too, and I know this is going to sound stupid, but I wanted this to be a more kind of down-to-earth character-focused story without like all the overarching stupidity of like the Infinity War weighing in on this. But when that damn test fact showed up, I was like, oh, fuck, I forgot this has to tie in somehow.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. No, like you said, the Guardians of the Galaxy, that had a plethora of characters that all had their own unique interactions, backgrounds. It was just...
It's a wonderful movie, and I think...
Terrific!
I think it's a much better version of this movie than this movie.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Even the second one was awesome.
Well, they're both wonderful in their own ways.
Oh, very much so. This one was, like Nick said, a copy-paste motif of trying to...
Well, I think it took some elements of that one, kind of like Ragnarok did, and it tried to like make a spreadsheet for the company so that they'd be like, well, you like Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor Ragnarok. This one's just like it. Look at all the 90s references. We worked really hard to get the rights to all this stuff. Remember the Fonz? Hey. Yeah, this one smacks a little bit too much of kind of corporate influence where they're like, we need more 90s and stuff in there. What people like nostalgia stuff? I don't know. Just throw it in there.
Which I would not put past Disney. They, like we said in other reviews and Ramble-ons.
Or like the whole bunch of things like, okay, we need someone that's a real nasty chauvinist. Someone that really shows why she hates men. It's like, well, she doesn't hate men, does she?
What? Yeah.
And it's like, no, look. If we don't have someone that's a really obvious version of the patriarchy, then nobody knows about feminism. We gotta have some montages.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And like I said, Disney has been on a nostalgia binge. Hell, every Hollywood studio has been on a nostalgia binge lately to kind of pander to older generations and to kind of introduce younger generations into the fandom, but for what it's worth.
All right. Well, I think that we are out of relevant things to talk about as far as this movie goes.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us for this Ramble On. This has been Nick.
And this has been Brendan.